Okay, good morning, everybody, or good day, depending on when you're watching this. Could be day, could be the middle of the night. So good morning, 2 a.m. for those of you watching this at 2 o'clock in the morning, because that is what you do when you have insomnia, is get up and watch a Moti-Vitality webinar, I'm sure. So this is July 2016's member exclusive webinar. Today we're going to be talking about incentive contest, a sales contest, and so let's get started officially. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to everybody that is here, both live as well as those of you watching this on recording. It really is my honor to be able to serve you this way. I really appreciate the opportunity to do so. And it is my goal, obviously, with every presentation that I give, to make sure that the information that I give to you is at least as valuable as the time that you're giving to me. I really hope that you walk away with this with something of value, something that you can use for you or your organization. Just to kind of let you know what we do with member exclusives, every other month we try and alternate. So one month we do something geared towards owners, managers, although certainly sales professionals are welcome and will probably gain something out of it. And then the next month is geared towards specifically towards sales professionals, which is why last month we did the Anatomy of a Sales Presentation Part 1, and next month we're doing Part 2, the Anatomy of a Sales Presentation Part 2. We'll finish that up. And then this month we're doing the sales incentives and contests. I do want to give special thanks to Mike Ferris and Medical Incorporated, as well as a lot of the dealers that I've had the opportunity to work directly with over the last 7 or 8 years. And just because the information that I'm going to give you, a lot of it was organized and put together and kind of consolidated. Information in this PowerPoint was consolidated with the help from them. So I wanted to give a special credit to those individuals for helping put together this presentation. I've actually never given this presentation specifically before. So I put together a new PowerPoint and put the information together here. So and some of the materials, some of the notes that I had from some of the dealers, specifically Mike, were very helpful in doing this. So so let's get started. Obviously, I think I'm going to, normally when I'm doing a sales presentation or sales training, I start with this, and I really like this. It's my philosophy with sales, but also in life, and it's really give more than you take. At the end of the day, when you look yourself in the mirror, my hope is that you will be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, today I gave more than I took. I want to take just a second here. I'm getting a comment that the sound is going in and out. Are you guys able to hear me okay? Can everybody hear me smoothly on this?
Kelly, I'm finding it to be kind of in and out. I'm not sure if anybody else is.
Can everybody else hear me okay?
Yeah, I found you coming in and out too.
You are, okay.
It's fine.
It's kind of garbled.
Kind of garbled?
Yeah.
All right. Well, if it gets too bad, let me know, and I will pause it and put in a hands-free or dial-in. In fact, why don't I go on and do that now?
Okay, so we took a brief pause there for audio corrections, and hopefully that sounds a little bit better. So the sales secret: give more than you take, and take a look at yourself in the mirror at the end of each day, and ask yourself in your sales presentations or in your office or with your coworkers, did I give more than I took? And if the answer is mostly yeah, then you're probably doing okay. 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 So why have sales contests or incentive contests within the office? There's a lot of great reasons. Number one, it's a great way to motivate a team, to get them excited. It is a way for everybody to make a little more money. The risk versus rewards are pretty low. It's a great way to do team building, to generate excitement, to give recognition for those people that are really putting forth a lot of extra effort. You know, we'll talk a little bit about that on how to do that in a little bit, but one of the things that I always point out or always kind of remember is when I was in sales, I was never the top guy. I did usually 30 or so units a month. I created a lot of those on my own, but at that time we had sales guys that were doing 50 to 60 units a month. There were some top guys there that were doing really, really well. And then we had some that were only doing, 10, 12 a month on the team. And they were the ones that always got the recognition. I just did my job. And mostly I liked that. It was fine. But I always hated the contest that we had because the contest only recognized the top guys. It was all based on how many units they did. And so I think when you set these incentive contests up, it can be a way to recognize different people for doing different, having different skill sets. And so recognition is really, really huge. Team building, building morale, getting everybody involved, making them feel like they're all part of the same organization. So I titled the slide on the sales contest, but really should be company contest or incentive contest, because it's not just the sales department that should often be involved. So timing is everything. Let's talk about some of the specifics on how to put these things together. First off, pick a good month. I think that one mistake that a lot of companies make is they'll set a sales contest up for what is traditionally their worst month. And so people go into that with kind of a negative attitude to begin with. So I recommend picking your best month. Go back to the last year or what is traditionally a really good month and see if you can top that when you're putting together a sales contest. Pick what is already a good month. That's because the results, the goals that you set have to be believable. You want your team members to be on board with it. If you set a high goal for a bad month in hopes that you're going to turn that bad month into a good month, then it can be a little demoralizing from the beginning. People can go, I don't know if that's actually realistic. So do a contest when your morale is up. I think another mistake that a lot of companies make is they try and set this contest when everybody's sort of disgruntled, and upset and grumbling. So do it when everybody's kind of happy. So because bad morale can backfire. You set this up and people are like, oh, this is a stupid contest, and that bad morale or negativity or toxicity can spread like wildfire through your organization. I like to coincide them with an ad campaign or a home show season. Set those goals where people are going to be incentivized and where they feel like they kind of have that head start, so set them to coincide with those things to maximize the benefits of the money spent and the investment made in those types of campaigns. So make your best month better. Don't do them every month. This is something else that I see companies do sometimes, is they will set contests at the beginning of every month, and it's almost like when the local furniture store has a sale this weekend, hurry, 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 this sale only lasts till Sunday. And it only lasts till Sunday because that's when they have to start getting ready for the sale that they have on Monday. If you have a sales contest every month, then it doesn't really mean anything. It's not that exciting. I'm not saying you can't set goals and incentives every month or have a little mini contest, individual contest, or goals for each sales individual. But I'm talking the big ones here. I'm talking where everybody gets involved and you're really trying to do something special. So don't do it every month. In fact, I think 2 to 3 times a year is really good. At most, 1 per quarter is really what you should be looking at. So that's 4 times a year at most. I think doing it any more than that then you're going to end up with burnout, and they're not going to mean anything. It's not going to be that big a deal. I like to make them a surprise. So you have a sales meeting and everybody comes in, and you can kind of generate excitement. You know, even at the contest, have a big announcement and generate this excitement. Make it a surprise on what's going to happen. And that's because if it's going to start like the following Monday, you don't want people sandbagging. And I'm not saying that salespeople would ever sandbag, meaning holding on to an install or a sale until the contest starts to give themselves a head start. I mean, I can't think of any salesperson that would ever do that. But make it a surprise. It does help generate excitement, and it prevents the sandbagging for those, you know, theoretically, those people who might sometime do that. And as far as length of time that the contest should go, it should go 1 month maximum, not longer than that, just 1 month. And that's because if you start doing a 3-month combined contest, you're going to get burnout. The excitement doesn't last, you know, and I've seen companies do 3-month or 90-day, and they'll take an average and they'll kind of get it up, but it's just, it becomes part of the everyday thing. It's not that excited contest, and by the end of the 90 days, hello, yes. Oh. So, you know, the procrastination, try and avoid that. The 1 month deadline on that helps you avoid the procrastination, meaning that people, if you have a 90-day contest, and people may not really start to put forth the effort in earnest until the last month to try and, you know, bring it up there. I'm getting a little bit of background noise, so I'm going to go on and mute everybody. If you have a comment or a question, just right-click on your name and unmute yourself. Okay. The guidelines, they have to, my suggestion is that the rules have to be fair for everybody. This was kind of a something that I've seen it done both ways, you know, and even when I was in sales, we would have a couple contests, like I already mentioned, they would reward the top producers, and I was never a top producer. Now, I'm pretty proud of what I did. I mean, I created, you know, the vast majority of my own business, and had a huge, you know, system sales percentage, and I mean, I feel pretty, I think, proud of what I produced and what I did. But I was in a contest where, you know, I know the manufacturer that we represented, they always did that. It was a volume-based contest, you know, so you had to sell 250 units of that particular brand in order to be invited to all the fancy-smancy, you know, in order to win the trips to all the exotic places and everything. And even though I did, you know, between 300 and 350 units a year, I would always only do about between 200 and 250, a little less than 250 for the exotic trip things. And so I always missed out on the big, when I was in sales, I missed out on the big fancy trips. Or a lot of times I missed out on those big fancy trips, and it just didn't recognize. It was kind of, you know, I got my plaque that said that I was over the 200. I got my 200 club plaques, but it didn't recognize the efforts and the other things. It didn't recognize that I was working in a territory that, you know, had 2 stoplights, you know, to get those. You know, it didn't recognize a 80 to 90% closing ratio or any of those things. So when you set the contest, make sure that you set it to recognize other things other than just the amount of units or sales volume, and make it fair. You know, if you're setting it just on sales volume, and the guy who's been there 30 years, who has tons and tons of referrals, and he's consistently doing 50 units a month, the new person who comes in, they're going to look at that and go, there's no way I can do 50 units this month. There's no way. So you're not going to see that much increase or effort out of that person that's been there for 6 months as compared to the person that's been there for 20 years. You know, what ends up happening is those contests end up being viewed simply as as a bonus to the top people, not an incentive for the newer people that are there. To make them fair, that's really, really important. To make them to give everybody an opportunity to win something, to participate, and to grow in the contest. Now, I'm not saying that the person who has earned those greater sales shouldn't have a better chance, but there are ways that you can do that to even out the advantages or the prizes, and we'll talk about that here in a couple minutes when I give you a couple examples of some of the contests that I put together successfully as sales manager. Make it to where everybody has a chance to win. It's a good idea to have a theme. This helps generate excitement. You can decorate. You can put stuff up. Have a theme on the contest. So don't just say we're gonna have a contest for this. You know, have something that you can decorate the office with. That you can generate excitement. There are pictures and posters and little things that you can do during the contest to remind people that you're having a contest. Make it fun and make it realistic. So if the most you've ever done for your sales team is, say, 150 units in a month, setting that up to, we want to double the number of sales this month, make sure that make sure that's a realistic goal. You know, we're going to take everybody here if we do this many units. If you've never even come close to that many units before, or that volume or whatever you're measuring for your contest, then your team is going to look at that and go, okay, well, yay. You know, so make sure that you have an increase, challenge it, make it challenging. Maybe have a couple tiers where that's tiers, T-I-E-R-S, not tiers, T-E-A-R. Don't tell people, yeah, we're going to have an increase, and everybody's like, no, I don't want to do it. Not like that. Not those kind of tiers. I'm talking tiers. But make it, you know, you might have a couple tiers so that if you hit the top tier, then you get the best prize, and if you hit the bottom one, you still get something. You know, so there are ways you can do that. But make it realistic. And communication is huge. Have somebody who's dedicated to communicating constantly, to encouraging. Make it the, you know, kind of the office buzz that everybody's talking about it, you know, and everybody's sort of challenging each other and calling each other and reminding each other and encouraging each other and saying, yay, you know, maybe even friendly competition, you know, friendly taunting. Make it kind of fun. Don't go cheap. This is something, I mean, you get what you pay for, right? So if you're, you know, look at what is going to incentivize your team. I mean, if you guys have a 30% increase over your units this month last year, then we'll give you a $10 bill. You're going to get a crisp, you know, take a look at this. George Washington right here. That's what we're going to give you if you increase your, you know, don't go cheap. Make it something exciting, something that, I mean, something that they can really work for and drive for. So, and don't make them wait for the prize. Have some prizes that you can give to them. Now, this is a little different. Let's say there's a trip that you're giving away to, you know, one of those company meetings. You know, maybe the manufacturer that you have is sponsoring a trip to Puerto Rico or something. Obviously, there's that, but in general, when you have this office contest, don't make them wait for the prize. I think you should reward publicly, but don't reward one just to humiliate another. So, you know, if you have a runner-up, don't make the runner-up or the people who didn't win the contest or qualify, don't humiliate them just so you can reward the person who won. Make sure that you applaud everybody's efforts. You know, I remember way back when, way back, when I was working at actually it was a network marketing type company, and they used to do these rah things, and they would have little contests on sales, you know, what you sold, and the losers would not only, you know, the winner would get the extra prizes, but the loser would have to eat a jar of baby food. and the winner got to pick out the jar of baby food flavor. And the winners would always pick out the worst tasting flavor to feed to the losers. And I have often thought, I wonder how many people felt humiliated over that. You know, I never lost one of those contests and never had to eat baby food. I wasn't with that organization very long either, but I always thought, you know, that was, I don't know, it's humiliating, you know, and I don't think it makes sense to humiliate somebody just to lift one or two top-tiered people up. So be careful about humiliating your team. You want this to grow your entire team, to build camaraderie and morale. So don't do something that's going to humiliate one or the other. I say get the big wigs involved too. You know, this was something when I put together a sales contest. I was sales manager, and I'm the one that they spoke to, that the sales team spoke to on a regular basis, and everybody talked to them. So when we had a contest, I got the owner involved, and even people from the manufacturer that they rarely saw. I got the DMs to come in and to call and to get them excited, to get them involved with it so that the team knew that this was something different. It wasn't something that was common that we were just doing on a whim. This was something that we'd planned. So we got the people above me involved. It needs to be a big deal. Put the rules in writing. I remember when I first, about a year and a half I'd been in sales. If anybody ever has gone through a training, you'll see I have this book that I was very proud of when I was in sales, probably the most powerful tool that I had in my test kit. And on the front binder, it says the bitterness of poor quality lasts far longer than the sweetness of low price. But when you open this book up, it had well over 100 letters and emails, reference letters and emails that people had written to me. A lot of those came from this contest. So one of the manufacturers that we represented decided they were going to give away a trip, I think, to the Bahamas or something like that. And so on a whim, the company that I worked for put together this. They said, okay, whoever gets the most positive reference letters over the next month will get to go on this trip. Whoever gets the most letters sent in. So I sent out letters to all of my customers saying, hey, look, if you've been happy with we have this contest, if you've been happy with the service, with the follow-up, with the things that I've provided this year, I'd love to have a reference letter, plus I work on referrals. I sent out this letter to all my customers, and I was asking everybody. So at the end of that month, I had like 50 of these things, well more. I mean, everybody else only had like 2 or 3. Well, they changed the rules halfway through. They said that my sending out the letter and asking people for those reference letters like that was unfair and gave me an unfair advantage, and so they didn't give it to me, and I didn't get this trip. And I can tell you, okay, fine, but that wasn't part of the rules. They changed those rules 3 weeks into it. And it was, I was following the rules on what I could do. And I mean, I was really glad because I had all those letters, and it was amazing to see the percentage of the percentage of customers that had actually responded and sent me that stuff. But it was also a little embarrassing later when they'd go, so did you win the trip? Did you get to go on that trip? How was that trip? And I'd say, no, I didn't win. Somebody else had more. I had to kind of make up excuses, that we gave it to one of our service technicians that had been there like 20 years. And I mean, that was fine, except that I felt punished for having all of the referrals. So I should just put the rules in writing. Make sure that you cover that stuff. Make sure that those things are there, and make sure it's fair to everybody that's there. Post them and don't change them midstream. In terms of preparation, plan ahead. I mean, like way ahead. Don't just decide tomorrow that you're going to do a contest. Plan ahead. Decide what type of contest you're going to run. Decide the length of time that it's going to be. Decide what prizes you're going to have, and decide what your goals are going to be. and then decide on a theme and prepare for the theme. So you can decorate and figure all that stuff out. Also figure out who's going to track it. There's some of the contests that require a little more effort on tracking and keeping things. Decide who's going to track it and who's going to make sure that, who's going to referee basically the contest. And then plan your celebration. Have that ahead of time too, so that you know where you're going to, the launch of the contest is really important, but also the touchdown, when you're done. Or decide when you're going to give away the prizes, when you're going to award them. Have that planned. Have pictures and charts that you can hang up and things that you can give out. Put stuff in their paychecks, the little pictures, awards. Prepare a little skit. That's kind of fun, to prepare a little skit to get it started. I'll tell you about one of the contests that we did at the when I was sales manager in a little bit, and it was a little silly, but I went and bought it was a baseball. We played a baseball game out. I'll tell you how that worked in a little bit, but I bought a baseball jersey and I had put on my baseball pants and I wore cleats and came in with big league shoe and big wad, and I had the helmet on, and I just black stuff under my eyes, all that stuff, and that's where I came in to announce the contest that way, and everybody was laughing at me because I looked like a total dork, but that was part of the fun, was kind of to get in the mood of it. Led Moti-Vitality. Apparently, okay. I'm not sure what I was trying to think mentally. I think lead mentally is what that's supposed to be. Obviously, I have a typo on this. I had a little mental. I had led mental there, and when I was trying to spell this. Anyway, lead mentally. That means that if you're excited about it, then they're gonna be more excited. If you're just kind of dull and drab about announcing this thing, that's the way they're gonna be too. So lead mentally with it. Buy the prizes ahead of time, and so that you can put them out. If they're tangible prizes, if there's something that, maybe it's a TV or, I don't know, I don't know, maybe for some of the companies I've seen, maybe you're buying them an 8-track player, because I have seen some companies out there where that's state of the art. But have that stuff put out where they can see it, where it's tangible and real, something that they can work for. And decorate, decorate, decorate. Put it all over the office. Even your customers walk in and your customers are going to be excited when they see something. Wow, you guys are festive in here. What's going on? Well, yeah, we've got a contest running this week. Your customers, they will want to be involved in that and participate in it. So decorate, decorate, decorate. Get it in there. Decorate your showroom. Decorate the office. Decorate the warehouse. Decorate everywhere. Be safe about it, but decorate, decorate. With your themes, get everybody involved on it. Okay. One of the things to be aware of, a lot of times the theme is, and I've seen companies do this where everything's money, 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 and they're posting money everywhere and doing all that. But, not everybody is motivated strictly by money. Some people, and I found this to be the case with a lot of sales professionals, they're motivated by the recognition, the award, a trophy. You buy the prizes ahead of time and put the trophies out, on a desk or, on a stand somewhere where they can see it. It's not always about the money. The money's nice, but keep in mind that with a sales professional, if they won and had a top prize, they won the top prize, they've already had a good month. So it's not, the money is less of a motivator than the recognition and, than being put up there to put their name on a plaque. It's not always about the money. Don't assume that. The other thing is, if you're getting your office personnel, everybody involved, sometimes just the participation and having a chance to participate. And think about this. Most contests that they have are all for the salespeople. So your office people and your service people, they're all sitting around watching the salespeople win all these fancy trips and get to go on all these things. And it creates an animosity sometimes that is it's not malicious, it's just this subtle animosity that the sales, oh yeah, they get to get all the fancy stuff. And so I think if you allow create a contest that allows your office staff and your service and install staff to participate, to have just as much chance to win and to be part of it, I mean, that itself is a huge motivation. It makes your office staff, it makes your service and install staff feel like they are part of the same team. They are all elite. They are all part of the team. So it's not always about the money. Sometimes it's about the participation and the ability to be part of that winning. Themes help an organization, they help a group stay focused. That's important to have them decorated. Make it fun. Have a good time with it. Be a little silly sometimes. You know, it's funny. I've heard these service personnel a lot of times will grumble. It's just that's such a silly little contest, blah blah blah. But you know, they grumble, and this has been my experience. I ran into that. I mean, many of you know that have heard me speak before. But at the sales, when I was sales manager, the service manager and I had we did not have separate service and sales meetings. We had them together, and I think the morale, the relationship between the service and sales department at the company that I worked with was probably better than most I've seen anywhere because we did that. And the service techs, they did grumble. You know, they were, you know, I would too if I had to be at the office at 6:30 every morning. I would grumble too. You know, it would, but they would grumble, but then they would participate. They loved it. I mean, they would grumble when we did, oh, that's just silly, I don't want to do that. But then they would do it, they'd participate, and they'd win sometimes. It was kind of cool to, you know, you just got to get past the grumpy part of it and make it fun for them. If you're going to do a theme or a contest, use score systems that are already in place. I mean, you can figure out what equals a score, which I'll give you some examples of that here in a second. But you know, if you're doing a theme like baseball or sports theme, you've already got score systems already in place. Use those. Use the same rules that the games already have. You know, poker, if you're going to have one. Here's some theme ideas. So you can, any sports, like baseball, basketball, football, any sports theme is good. Seasons, you can do a contest based around a season. Like, you know, if you're doing spring, then you can have flowers, you know, spring to the next level of sales or whatever. So you can do seasons, you know, snowflakes, flowers, maybe dead leaves falling off trees. You can do a Western theme. You can do decades. Service, now I'm not talking about service as in like service like in tinkering or fixing things. That's why I put the little asterisk there. I'm talking about service. You know, if you're doing a theme that's a service type industry like serving, you know, in a restaurant business, you know, servers in a restaurant business or something like that, where you're, everything is based on, you know, serving other people or giving to other people. You could do a history theme, government theme that's kind of big right now. You could have some sort of an election or politics. I mean, you obviously don't want to sometimes politics or government type conversations can be pretty polarizing, so you don't want to do that unless you can find a way to make it fun and not polarizing within your team. Space travel, weather can be a good theme. Social media, so you could do a, you know, Facebook theme or you know, whatever kind of theme you have there. National landmarks, decades, apparently we can do decades twice. Poker, that's kind of a fun one. Everybody gets a card, you know, if for every point they earn or, you know, sale they make, a referral they give, or whatever you're going to do, if they get a card, or they get to draw a card, and best winning hand or something wins. Game shows are kind of fun. Board games, you know, you think you could play Monopoly, right? Everybody gets a Monopoly piece. You know, it's sort of like they do at McDonald's all the time. You can do video games, word games, so everybody gets a letter, and you're playing Scrabble or something. That's kind of fun. A crossword puzzle. You could do a time theme or cartoons. I mean, those are just some ideas of some of the categories that you could do. So the types of contests that you have are going to be your individual contest, your company-wide contest, and that's the entire company reaches for a goal. Your individuals are going to be, let's say you have one salesperson, and you kind of pull them into the office and go, you know what, I'll give you a $50 gas card if you can hit this number this month, or if you do this percentage of ROs this month, we'll pay for, we'll cover your insurance this month. Something that incentivizes an individual. The company is the entire company reaches for the goal. That's, so, okay, as a company, if we hit this number this month, then we'll all go we'll rent a deep sea fishing boat and go out for an afternoon to go fishing, or whatever. I'm making stuff up on top of my head there, but that's where the company has a common goal that they're all going to hit, nobody individual. And then there's teams. And if you're going to do a team thing, I really like combining. I mean, you can do service versus sales. I like it better when you have sales and service on the same team, or office sales and service on the same team. Get them working together. I think that service and sales departments tend to work against each other already way too much. So if you're going to do something like that, then make sure that it's done respectfully, that they're not pitted against each other. I actually like teaming up service and sales people on teams. So I'll show you one of the contests that we did here in a little bit, or a couple of them that we did that got everybody involved. So you can do a combination of them. Okay, so here's a couple examples of contests that I put together successfully when I was sales manager that worked out pretty well. So this one was pretty simple. It was pretty basic. Essentially what we did here was we set a goal, let's say for 150 units. And so we had 150 corresponding balloons to the amount of units. So on this one, we had a prize pool of $1,000. This was for each individual. Jen, you may remember this one. I think this was the one where Ed Fuller gave you one of his balloons, or a couple of his balloons. It was one very similar to this. I couldn't remember which contest, but,
it was this one. I was new to Clearwater and brand new, so he's like, here, go ahead. And he had like 5 or 6 balloons. He's like, here, go ahead, just take one of my balloons. Oh, no, that's okay. No, go ahead, take one of my balloons. And it was like $100.
It was a top price, yeah.
Something like that.
I was trying to remember that. So what we did basically is you have, let's say your goal is 150 units, right? So you have 150 corresponding balloons, and you divide that $1,000 prize pool or whatever you're doing by 150. Now most of you put little slips of paper, and it takes some work, but you put some little slips of paper in the balloons, and you have sometimes that slip of paper will say $1. Some of them will be $5. Some of them will be $10. You do have a couple big prizes in there. Maybe there's a $50 gift card for Home Depot, or a $100 gas card, or maybe you have the big prize of $250 in cash, or whatever. But you separate that, and you put those up there. So everybody has a chance to win, and you do this based on units, right? So, you can really make the rules based on anything. Maybe it's referrals. Maybe it's a system sale. For every system sale, you get a balloon. Maybe you want to set a goal for system sales or whatever, your softener and RO, 2 units for each sale. Maybe you're setting it on creative leads. I mean, it really depends on what you want to reward and incentivize, okay, and how complicated you want it to be. But just to keep it simple, we'll call it units. So basically, if you sell 30 units, you get to pop 30 balloons, which means that you have a better chance of getting the top prizes. If you sell 5 units or 10 units, then you get to pop, 10 balloons, which means that you still have a chance of winning the top prize, but obviously not quite as much chance. So that makes it fair. So everybody gets a chance for the top prize, but you have a better chance if you have more production. What Jen's talking about, the time there, we had one. Jen was brand new, like only a month or two into the company when we had this contest, and I think she only had like 5 balloons to pop, and everybody else there, she was our newest sales professional on board, and everybody else there had a bunch of balloons. So one of the guys gave her a couple of his balloons. He had a whole bunch of them, and he gave her a couple of them. And she ended up with the balloons that he gave her winning more than he won. It was way more balloons to pop. So that was kind of, it was kind of fun and very, very, very cool. Everybody, of course, everybody appreciated very much Ed. That was Ed that did that. Everybody really appreciated that he had done that. It was kind of cool. But I always think about that, Jen. You got pretty lucky on that one. So that's a pretty simple one to put together. You can decorate around the office, have it, streamers and party time, and you do the invitation. It's just festive, It's also kind of fun to pop the balloons. Everybody goes in and pops the balloons. It's kind of neat to get them. They get to pay, I think on that one we did got the helium and put them all on the ceiling, so they pulled down the balloons, from the, actually though, I think if I recall on that one, I went in the night before and filled them all up. And so when we came in, a lot of the balloons were on the floor because the helium had gone out. So it didn't quite work the way I wanted it to. I wanted it to go in the morning and have, all the balloons on the ceiling and to have it really festive. When we got there, some of the balloons were still on the ceiling. Some of them were kind of floating halfway in between. But anyway, it worked pretty well. Okay, so this was one of my favorite ones that we put together. I loved this one. This one we did on the World Series. We called it the World Series. And we had a pretty big crew, okay? So I think at the time we had 9 sales professionals on our team and 8 service technicians or thereabout. It was right in that same area. And what we did on this, it was coming into this was a period of time when Detroit, when the Tigers were actually making their way to the World Series a few years back when we did this. So there was a lot of excitement anyway around the baseball. So this is the one we talked about where I dressed up kind of as a baseball guy. And I got a dartboard. I went and bought a dartboard. And on a lot of the regular dartboards, there's a baseball game. Some of you've seen that. And you basically play it. And what we did is we picked one of the service technicians and one of the sales guys. And during the joint service sales meeting, we had we had them pick teams, and they had to alternate. So they had to alternate each time they picked a team, like on kickball in elementary school or whatever, you pick teams. But they had to alternate. Every other one had to be a service person, or somebody from the service team, and then a sales team, service team, sales team, so that you had a mostly equal number of service technicians and sales professionals on each team. And so this was, company teams. And what we did is so during the joint service sales meeting, we choose the team captains, allow them to pick their team. So for the way we scored is they got for sales, they got 1 dart for every 2 units that came from a house lead, and 1 dart for each 1 unit that came from a creative lead. And for service technicians, we gave them 2 darts for each referral that they gave to one of the sales guys, plus 1 additional dart for each unit that resulted from a referral. So if they gave a referral to Jen and Jen sold 2 units, the service technician would get 4 darts for that. So then at the end of the month, everybody had their number of darts, their throws, and so we played out a game of baseball on this dart board, starting with, and if you've ever played the game of baseball, I mean, you see the picture of it here. You throw the dart. Each dart was one pitch, basically. Okay, so they throw the dart, and if they got a strike or they hit an out, we keep track of it. And once they got 3 outs, then the next person on the team went out, or then the next team got the throw until they got 3 outs. And we played the game out all the way through until all the darts were gone, which was a really long game. But eventually, the people with 50 darts were the only ones still throwing the darts. And it was pretty close. It came down, if I recall, to 1 or 2 points on score. But the winner of that was really cool because the winners had to come in, or the losers rather had to come in. We set up a time a week or so later where the losers had to come in early one morning before even the service techs got there and everything. This was set up for the next sales meeting, and they had to cook breakfast for everybody and serve them breakfast. And that was really cool to get the service and sales guys working together, and also the winning team got to sit together and be served, by the losers of the team, and it was really cool to kind of have that the camaraderie and the working together and the friendly competition. Another one that we did was this one. It was a Super Bowl. It was set up similar. This is when the Detroit Lions were, making the Super Bowl. Obviously, that's not true because they don't let high school teams go into the Super Bowl. We're lucky if we make the playoffs, which I think we've done twice in the last 15 years. So the Detroit Lions have never made the Super Bowl, I don't think. Anyway, it was set up very similar. This one required a lot more effort for somebody to track and keep track of, but we basically separated the teams much the same way, except that here we did we gave 10 yards for every 2 units from a house lead and 20 yards for each 1 unit from a creative lead. Now, as soon as a salesperson called, or as soon as they got an install, and it was set for install, scheduled for install, then we had the sales coordinator in the office keep track of that and wrote down on a piece of paper the order that they came in. Okay, so we played it out based strictly on the order that things came in. And sometimes you would have cancellations or postponements, which would change the order. So the game, nobody knew who won the game, who won the Super Bowl game until the very end. But we had a joint sales and service meeting where we played it out. We started on the 50-yard line, and the first person would come in. Scott he sold a double, so he'd get 20 yards and he'd go that way. And then somebody, the service technician gave a referral, and the person who sold it got 40 yards, so they go back the other direction. And we had a football field up on the wall, and we were moving a little Velcro football, or a little laminated football back and forth on the yardage, to see who won. And we gave whoever got a touchdown, and this was kind of randomly, so whoever got a touchdown, I think we had $20 gas cards to give them if they got a touchdown. And so you had a chance of winning a different prize pool, but it was really cool. Everybody came in and they were rooting for their team and scoring, and it was like watching a football game, to watch it play out and to get everybody high-fiving each other and, yeah, nice job. I mean, that's the kind of the point with these things, is to make everybody excited about them, kind of get everybody as part of the team, everybody working together. Okay. I have a couple minutes here. I'm curious to hear, and I'm going to unmute everybody. I'm curious if you guys have had a successful contest that, that's worked for you, or what have you done that's had it work? And anybody have one that they have had work? Any ideas? Any thoughts on these? You guys there?
Yes.
Am I still connected? Okay, good. All right. Anybody have any themes that they've done or that have worked, or any advice that you would give in putting together in putting together a contest? I'd be curious to hear about any of that. If you guys want to, give me a call later or jot down an email, or jot down your experiences, that'd be awesome. I'd really appreciate hearing that. If anybody wants ideas putting these things together, let's say you want to put one together, give me a call. You guys are all Moti-Vitality members. If you're on this call, I'd love to be able to sit down with you as part of your membership and help you organize and plan it and come up with, brainstorm some ideas on how to incentivize it and put it together. So if there are no other comments or questions, then I'd love to have everybody join us at next month. We'll send out the invites and take a look at the website. This one will be recorded. This webinar will be recorded and posted online within the next couple of days. So if you want to go back and review it, then please feel free to do so. And then look for the dates for the Anatomy of a Sales Presentation Part 2, which will be our August member exclusive webinar. Again, thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to serve you, and everybody have a great week, great month, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you. So